Hey kids, welcome to Unit 1, Lesson 13, Pattern Painter, exercise number 3. We're going to have some fun in today's exercise, kids. In my neighborhood, we're going to instantiate a Pattern Painter object called my Pattern Painter, and then we are going to use that my Pattern Painter object to create the mural of our pattern. Or we're going to copy what we see below. So we have to add a little more code. We're going to be relying a lot on the pseudocode that we wrote in class. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's instantiate a new object here, because this is going to tell us whether we had any errors from our last lesson. And that's going to be a pattern painter, and its name is going to be my pattern painter, and that's going to be a new pattern painter. That's not going to be difficult at all to say, kids. Now that we got that, let's just call that method we created yesterday called paint pattern, and let's see if something happens. And it's paint pattern. Now when I hit run, we should get our sprite created over here, and it should paint a square. Well, let's go ahead and see if that's what happens. Oh, we got an error. Saying the formal and actual arguments differ. Well, if you come back here, remember we gave it a color. That means we have to give it a color here to work. So let's give it a color blue. Let's go ahead and hit run. Well, it worked, but we have one issue. We didn't give it any paint in the bucket to paint with. So that is one of the first problems we have to solve here. And that one we can solve pretty easy. If you remember from your ULM, I'll pop it up on the screen here. We actually have a command set paint, and we're going to use that command right now. So we're going to go my pattern painter, and we're going to go set paint, and we can give it as much as we want. Let's start off with 100. Now, if we hit run in this order, we're going to get the same error because the paint is after we did the work. So let's move this to the top. Now let's hit run and see if that works. Ooh, we got a pattern. Well, that's good. Now we just have to make this pattern repeat across the entire line. Let's look at our pseudocode from class. And we're going to utilize our while loop again. And as long as we don't reach the end, we are going to keep painting. So that's the while. So as long as we can move south, we're going to keep painting. And what are we going to paint? Well, we want to paint our pattern. Then after we're done with our pattern, we want to move to the next block. Now I have this move to next row spot. Let's wait off on that in a second. Let's just get our pattern to move across now. So let's take this pseudocode and develop it into real code. Where do I want this? Well, we're going to go in Pattern Painter. And we are going to create another method here. Let's give ourselves some space. And this one is going to be called Paint Pattern Mural. So let's go public void and paint pattern mural, and the same thing, we're going to give this one a argument to pass, and it's going to be colored just like before. And we're just going to take that code we just talked about. We're going to have a while loop, and while we can move And this time south, because as long as we're not off the board, we just want to keep going. And we need to put another pair of curly braces here. And as long as we can move south, I want to paint the pattern from above, and we need to pass that color. So that's why I put that color from above. Now, once we're done with that, if we can move, we are going to move. So as long as we can move, as long as we don't reach the end here, we're going to move. And we need to do that 3 times because we're right here. So we need to move. That's once. That'd be twice. We need to put ourselves on this 3rd little dot here. So we need to repeat this line of command 3 times. So let's get this moved over like that. We're going to do the same thing. If can move, we're going to move like that. And then one more. If can move, we're going to move. And that's our end for our class. We don't have to worry about that. And let's just make sure our curly cues are good. I know I'm missing some curly cues here. Let's make sure we do that. Put that one there. That ends that one. And we need one extra one here. And we need one extra one to close out everything. And again, this is why your indentions are important, kids, because it helps you keep track of where you're at. So that closes that, and that closes that. So this right here, as long as we can move south, which is this direction, we're going to paint our pattern. That'll put us in the top part. And then after it, as long as we can move forward, because we don't want to be on the edge here, we're going to move forward. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. Why don't we just do move forward, move forward, move forward? Well, what happens if we hit the edge? What happens if we change the size of the board? A lot of things can happen. This is a little more flexible. Plus, we use our selection statements. Let's go ahead and put this paint pattern mural to the test. So let's go my pattern painter, and then it is paint pattern mural. And then we're going to do, let's do another color here, kids. Let's do green for once. We should get our blue, and then we should get a bunch of green until it can't move. Let's go ahead and see if that works. We are definitely one short on our curly braces. All right, let's see if this works. Let's go ahead and hit run. Kids, all that talk about curly braces and I still miscounted them. Classic roads. That worked pretty close to what I wanted. I definitely can see this first one here is a little redundant now because I'm going to paint that paint pattern immediately. So I'm covering up that first one that I was painting right there. So I just commented that out. That'll save me a little time because just covering up the paint. Second part, this right here is an edge case issue we had. It moved until it couldn't move, and then it went to paint. But it can't move again, kids. It runs off the grid. It says it right there. So that's one of our edge cases. So instead of exiting out this loop here, we're going to have to come up with some sort of algorithm that lets us move to the next row. And if you saw from my pseudocode from before, that was one thing I had to do, was get that to move to the next row. So what's my pseudocode for this going to look like? Well, the first thing I'm going to do here, if I can't move, I have to determine which way I'm facing. That means, am I on the row painting from left to right, or am I painting right to left? So let's take care of the first one that we're going to face. If I am facing east, I should turn right. And then if I can move, I should move. And that should take me to here. And then if I can move again, I should move. And then if I could move, I should move again and then turn right so I'm facing the right direction. So basically, if I can't paint, I want to drop down. How are we going to code that up? Well, let's go over here. We're going to go between our patterns here. Let's give us a little space here. And I'm going to call this one move to next row because that's what it is. So let's do a public void, and this is move to next row. Don't forget your curly cues. Oh, we don't need a semicolon there either, kids. So that's going to be moving to the next row. What we said before was if we cannot move, and we don't have a command cannot move, but we do have can move, and we can do the reverse Uno card of that. So if we cannot move, then we're going to turn right. And then the same thing as before. We're going to just move down a couple of times, just like we did up here. We're going to do it 3 times. And we're not going to forget our curly braces this time either, kids. So if can move, curly braces, we're going to move. And then we're going to do that one more time. If, when I see that spelling error, kids, can move. We have way too many there. We're going to move. Let's space this over. Let's clean this up. See a spelling error I can fix there. That one's for there. And one more. If can move, curly brace, move. Woo! Spelling. Now, that should put us somewhere right around there. We want this to just call naturally. So we don't need to call this in our main file here. We need to call this part of our larger mural pattern. And where's that going to go? Well, right after this loop here, we want to be inside the while part. So we are just going to do move to next row. And now, as you can see, that's in our while statement here, that once this is completed, we're going to go to while instead of just trying to paint the pattern again. That should put us here. Let's speed up just a little and run and see if this works. Ooh. So we reached the south there. So as long as we can move south, keep painting, and we stop moving south, so that kicked us out. We did have a logic error here. I thought it was going to stop painting once we got down here, but it could still keep painting the pattern. So it worked, just not the way I wanted it to. I definitely know I need to turn right to set it on the right way to go. And where's that going to go? Same as before. We want it inside that larger while loop. So turn right like that. And let's just clean this up here. This will be easier to see. And now we should start painting down towards here. And I think once it gets here, it's going to go down that way again. We'll fix that in a minute. Let's just get it to go the correct direction. Uh-oh. Let's stop here. Looks like I should have moved one more down here. So let's go down here and just put it down one more time. If can move, we're going to move. Don't forget your curly braces. Let's see if that fixes it. Ooh. Looks like we put ourselves in an infinite loop here, kids. That means instead of turning down like I thought it was going to, it actually turned up, and it was just repeating this over and over. That's why we ran out of paint. That means I think we can do an else statement here using our two-way selection. That means if we can't move, we should turn left and go down here. So kind of the opposite. If we can move, we're going to turn right, go down a couple of times. This time, if we can't move, then we're going to turn left. So let's go in here. I think I'm going to need to know which way I'm facing here. I'm going to put a larger statement in, and I'm going to put it right here underneath my large if I can move statement. And I'm just going to say if is facing east. We're going to open our curly Q here. We're going to need to add one, so don't forget about that. We can turn right. So if it's facing east, we're going to turn right. Else, and where we're going to put that else statement at? Well, we need to close that larger statement. So that is encompassing that turn right part. Now we're going to put else, need to open that up, and we need to do a turn left. Like that. That should get us right there. But we need to do the same thing as we did before. We need to move 1, 2, 3, 4 spots for it to work. So after that, we're going to have to do our if can move, move. And I think we're just going to copy this here and we're going to use that to paste. So let's clean this up here. We need to be within this larger else statement. So we're going to need to do this 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Clean that up just a little there. Whoops, too much deleting. Clean this up a little here. Should end up with 4 curly braces. Now we should end up here at the bottom. But just like before, we need to be in the right direction. We're going to be facing the wrong direction. I think we're also going to need a turn left here to orient us back in the east direction. Woo! Ready to see if I'm right, kids? I'm going to turn this up just a little more. Let's hit run and see if it does it. Well, it looks like we have maybe 1 or 2 many if can moves. Let's take one out and see if that looks any better. Still looks like we're 1 too many. My counting is spectacular today, kids. One more time. There we go, kids. Let's get in the habit of committing our code. I'm just going to write this as unit 13. Just to keep track of it a little better. Key takeaways from this lesson. Key takeaway, kids, is just going to be what we're going to be doing for the rest of this class. And that is this idea of decomposition, or breaking this large problem into smaller parts. For this one, I started off by just painting a simple square. Once I got the square going, I got the square to move across the screen. Once I got it to move across one line, then I worked on just getting my sprite to move to the start direction of the next line. Then once I got that, I just repeated the pattern from above. And then I had a third problem, which was repeating it in the opposite direction. For me, this lesson really had 3 major problems I had to solve, and those were it. This was a long one, kids. Hopefully you found this helpful. As always, if you have any questions, come see me. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next lesson. See you later, kids. Bye, bye, bye.